Hi, you guys. This is Rachel here, the Modern Shaman. Thanks for being with me for another YouTube Q&A video of this week. If you're new to this channel, I'm glad you're here. I would love for you to visit my website and kind of just get to know me a little better, get connected with all of my offerings and services and resources. My website is themodernshaman.net. Also, I want to say, I've been kind of talking about this each week, but if you are interested or are anywhere near the San Antonio area, I am hosting a wonderful event on April 14th here at my house in San Antonio, and it is a special body and soul retrieval ceremony. I'm working with a fellow practitioner of mine, and we will be guiding a body and soul retrieval. So if you're interested, reach out. You can message me for more information or go on my website. Again, that's themodernshaman.net. All right, here's the question for this week. Okay, it says, let me first say I love you. I love that. Thank you. Sending love right back to you, Mama. This channel is amazing. It is my go-to. That makes me happy because I started this channel a long time ago, and you know, I don't know. It's great to hear feedback. I really appreciate it. It keeps me motivated to keep doing these videos. Okay. I wanted to ask you how we get out of a negative spiral. Why is it that when things are really bad, they always seem to get worse? I find myself at times in a negative spiral, and I would love your advice on how to just shift the energy. Yeah, great question. Very relatable, right, to our human experience here on this earth. Thinking about how I want to answer that. I think the first thing that I want to talk about when it comes to a negative spiral is your vibrational frequency, right? We all resonate as human beings. We have a resonant frequency that we are emitting. And that varies based on our mass, our height, our weight, all of this stuff. But there's a pretty standard human resonance, right, that we're emitting out in terms of voltage and measurable frequency. Now, when you are feeling an emotional charge of something that makes you really happy, the amplification and voltage of that frequency and the numerical value of it goes up. When we are feeling very dark thoughts, negative thoughts, shame, anger, bitterness, judgment, all of this energy, these are lower level frequencies. They have a heavier density to them, and the frequency and numerical value goes down, all right? This is oftentimes why there's a description that we hear of lower vibrational entities, because they literally vibrate on lower levels. And those that are sensitive to energy, that are clairsentient or empathic, especially picking up on emotional charged energy, you can walk into a place that used to be an asylum or like a mental health facility, or where there was a battle, a warfare that happened on a particular land, or where someone got divorced, a house, even if you're a realtor maybe, and you're walking into houses and you're like, oh, someone got in a divorce in this house, there's argument, there's anger in here, there's negative energy. These are lower level vibrational energies that we are literally picking up on, and you're receiving, and your susceptibility or your antenna to pick up on those frequencies may vary, but that is a form of your psychic gift of clairsentience. And some of us are more aware of the subtleties in those vibrations, but essentially that is what we're always emanating out. And other entities or energies also do the same. This is literally, everything is vibration. So on that level, this is a way that we communicate all the time without using our verbal language. This is a form of nonverbal communication. And this is the language in which all things are speaking. Elementals, trees, nature in itself, even matter. Like I said, the four walls of a room will have a resonant frequency that they are emitting. If there's love in that home, if there's an energy of a room that, you know, has had a lot of wonderful activity, it will store also the energy of that. So on the negative note of that, when you get in negative, when you have some sort of trauma that happens and it puts you in a negative emotional state, you're down, you're angry, you're feeling horrible, you begin to emit that vibrational frequency. And when this happens and there is a secondary object or a person or a place, something outside of you, you begin to essentially create a force outward onto that secondary object. And that object in turn begins to have sympathetic vibration. This is literally a scientific term in terms of like sound waves. Say, for instance, you can use the example of when someone uses their vocal cords, they're singing, they're putting a force in that vibration, it ripples out through the sound waves. And if someone has a glass, right, with some water in it or something that is reacting or taking in and absorbing that source, if it cannot hold that capacity or that vibrational frequency, the glass will bust, right? There's that commercial a long time when I was a kid, right, where people would sing at a certain tone and they would hit that note and that frequency would be vibrating at such a high frequency that it would shatter the glass. Okay, so this is literally the law of sympathetic vibration. This just goes to show you how powerful music is for all of you musicians. And when you are emitting a particular vibrational tone, you are resonating at that frequency, sending that out, and everyone else is in sympathetic vibration if they listen to it for long enough. It doesn't happen right at once, but if you take it in continually. And so this is also a warning. Be mindful of what you listen to, the people that you listen to that are talking, people like me, the podcasts that you listen to, the people you surround yourself with, the friends, if they're just constantly talking negative or talking hatred about they hate this people group, or this is essentially how manipulation works, mind manipulation. This is literally brainwashing on the basic understanding of sympathetic vibration. This is what happens. And think about the fact that most of our body is water. You can look at Dr. Emoto's work and how he looked at the water molecules under a microscope and showed how they manifest or created a shape when something was in, like they were listening to classical music, it would literally create a snowflake pattern, right? A beautiful patterned shape that had all of these kind of outcroppings and branches. It was beautiful. And the fractal picture just, was one of beauty and creation. And then they would play songs with a lot of like cursing in it, a lot of negative speech, derogatory terms, kind of belittling this energy of anger and hatred and bigotry, all of this. And literally the water molecules would fractal off, would cause noise and friction, and they would look like knives, like cutting, and they would have no sort of pattern to them other than dis-ease and dysfunction, and they would kind of corrode in on themselves. You can very visually see the effect of that. But this is essentially a visual representation of sympathetic vibration. So this is scientifically what's happening when you are vibrating out in a negative vibration. You are essentially creating sympathetic vibration all around you. So you got to stop it. I mean, I'm the same way. We all do this. We're all in this environment, in this human body made predominantly of water that constantly vibrates, right? And is in reactionary vibration to all that's around it. This is why parents have always said, like, be careful of your friends or those that you surround. You want to see your future? Look at the people you surround yourself with. All of this kind of talk kind of comes from that same dynamic of understanding a sense of sympathetic vibration. Not to mention that the lower level entities, this is the realm in which they live, right? And remember, lower level entities, don't demonize them or try not to look at them as this like horrible, scary thing. They simply live in that realm. That's simply the vibration with which they emit. So it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? That's just where they live. It's kind of like if you go into a river and you go into the muddy area, that's the muddy area, right? You go into the area that has a lot of flow and movement, then it's going to be clearer, okay? Or better yet, when you have light and it reflects onto you, what do you have behind you? The shadow, right? And it's not something to be afraid of. It's actually like you. There's a part of you that realizes this is just my shadow. There's nothing to be afraid of here. This is what it is. So when you are aware that the lower level entities, the lower level vibrations, we all have shadow in ourselves. We all have lower aspects to ourselves that we're working on. Otherwise, we wouldn't be on this planet and be a part of this whole journey of the soul, which the point of this experience of being here is to grow in wisdom, right? And wisdom is not intellectual. It is a experiential learning. So that's part of why we're here. But all that being said, when you can recognize and identify that these are lower level thoughts, these are lower level experiences, these are negative energies, if you're able to identify it, you're able to at least differentiate enough to segment and separate yourself emotionally, okay? But the hard part is that when you are in this vibe of it, it gets harder and harder and you attract more of that energetically because it's in sympathetic vibration to you. It's just magnetically, it's just naturally starting to vibrate in tone with you, right? So when you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, all of these negative things start to happen. You're in a bad mood. People start being mean to you. It's just like reverberating off your very auric body. We all have been there and we understand that experience. So what do you do? Which is your last and final question, which kind of is the whole point of it. How do you get out of this spiral? So the first and quickest and easiest way is to distract yourself out of it. Literally, if you're in an environment of that, get out of that space. Get out of the house. Stop watching the depressing movies. Stop watching negative movies. Stop listening to negative music. Stop bombarding yourself with that sympathetic vibration. So physically get out and walk in nature. Get out in the light. Get on things that feel light. So take off the clothing. You'll notice this when people are depressed, when they're bad, they'll want to cover. They'll want to put lots of layers on. They'll want to stay in. There's a sense of repression and sympathetic connection to the darkness. And it's very literal, not just metaphorical, right? And so do the opposite. Shift into the opposite. Take off the clothing, get outside in the light, go walk and shift into movement. So you can shift it very quickly through dance, put on happy music through sound, put on music that at first it will feel like noise. It will hurt because there's frictional energy happening here and there's frictional vibration. So you're in this heavy negative energy, but you know you got to shift it. And you start putting on this happy music and you're just mad at it. You're like, oh, this is not going to work. This is ridiculous. You put on some stand-up comedy that's uplifting, right? It's not talking bad about other people or something, but that is funny. Or you start laughing, okay? Things like this. You moved into it. At first, it's going to feel frictional, but you've got to sustain it until your own resonance becomes sympathetic to the new frequency that is positive. So keep at it. Keep at it. This is why mantra is effective, because it repeats, 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 repeats that resonant vibration. And when we move it through our vocal cords, we add amplification. So say it out loud, mama, and say it like you mean it. Keep saying it, saying it, saying it. Do movements with it, gestures with it. This is oftentimes too, when we hit our capacity for an emotional resonance, you'll notice your body may, after a while, start to try to shift it for you. It's like it knows better. This happens to me all the time because I've practiced shifting my vibration. So I'll be like watching a sad movie and all of a sudden I'll want to laugh, like an inappropriate laugh when it's like super sad, because my emotional intelligence has that higher awareness that it needs to shift out of this because I'm aligning too much with it. That's why people laugh at funerals. That's why it's hit your max capacity. Otherwise, you're going to start to align with it and you're going to move into it and sympathize. And the vibration, essentially, you'll become one with it and you'll become sympathetic resonance to that, whatever that vibration may be, whether it's the sad song. And this is how I oftentimes notice where people are. I do this all the time with my kids, is we'll be in the car and we take turns picking what song goes on the radio or what song we put on our little Spotify, just so it's fair. But I always kind of pay attention to like what songs are my kids picking, because it tells me what sympathetic vibration they're resonating at right there. If they're picking sad songs, they're picking angry songs, they're picking happy songs, they're picking kind of silly songs. It is representative of their vibrational state, literally the frequency in which they are sympathetically resonating. So you can easily shift through sound and movement and distracting, getting yourself out of that, and then repeat that until you move into sympathetic resonance with it. Sometimes it can be very tricky, and this is where boundaries come into play. If you have people that you're forced to be around, like in a workforce or a family member that's toxic or that always has a negative energy and they're putting out that negativity. Same with locations, right? You would need to kind of cleanse yourself of that. If you feel like you have entities that are attached, that are negative entities, this is like the loop thinking, like I can't get out of it in my mind. So you want to clear those negative entities. And I would say go to a practitioner that you know that does it if you don't know how to do it. Or watch some of my other videos that talk about that. And then move into sympathetic vibration with the frequency in which you want to emit, that you want to create from, that you want in your life. I hope that was helpful to you. I'm going to sign off here, you guys. I'll be back next week with another video. Blessings.